How much does it cost to study in the UK? If you are an international student who is thinking about studying in the UK, you're probably wondering what the costs entail. So in terms of your tuition, in terms of living expenses, visa fees, and generally how much you would spend if you were to start the journey or start the process of applying to study abroad. And most importantly, if you had admission, how much would you spend in total? Hi and welcome, I'm Z, and on this channel I share a lot of useful information with you about education and self-improvement. So if that is the kind of content you're interested in, you're welcome home. Make sure you hit the subscribe button in order to see all of the useful information I will be sharing. As someone who studied in the UK, I'll be sharing this information with you based on experience and also from a really reliable source, which is from the British Council and the information they've put out there on their website. And so we'll be looking closely at this information, and I hope that it helps you make a decision and helps you plan. It depends on what you're going to study, where you're going to study, and your lifestyle basically. So if you want to study in the UK, the first thing you might want to start thinking about is which university do I want to study, and how much would I be paying for tuition. And if you look at the various universities, you'd realize that they charge different fees, but then there's an average which I'll share with you shortly. With that said, it depends on whether you're studying an undergraduate degree program or a postgraduate degree program, and these fees are obviously different. Also, programs in the humanities and social sciences are quite affordable or may not be as expensive as the sciences. So it depends really. Let's take a look at postgraduate degrees first. If you want to study a postgraduate degree, how much are you likely to pay? Like I said, it depends on the university. International postgraduate fees vary from £9,000 to £30,000. So if you're from outside the UK, you may want to convert this to your local currency to be able to appreciate the value of it. But it costs from £9,000 to £30,000, and then the average is around 17,109 per year. So I'm using these estimates based on what I have found on the British Council's website, and this is a reliable source. For undergraduate degree programs, you're likely to pay around 11,400 or between 11,400 to £38,000, and the average amount that you'd pay per year is around 22,200 per year. So remember that when it comes to undergraduate degree programs, it also depends on the duration. So in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, you're likely to spend, or the time for an undergraduate degree is 3 years, and in Scotland it could be 4 years. So it really depends. So these amounts that I have mentioned, or the amount I have mentioned, is what you're going to most likely pay for each year. And for a master's degree program, it's 1 year. So whatever tuition fee you're being charged, you're just going to pay it for 1 year, because most UK master's degree programs are for a year. Now let's move on to living expenses. When it comes to your living expenses in the UK, you're thinking about transportation, you're thinking about accommodation, you're thinking about groceries, and generally other things like clothing. And if you're living in London, London is it's more expensive than most parts of the UK. So if you're living in London, you can budget around £1,300 to £1,400 a month for your living expenses. And if you're outside London, you are advised to budget around £900 to £1,300 a month. Also, it really depends on your lifestyle. It depends on how much you spend, where you find your accommodation, how much you pay for accommodation in a month. Let's just take a look at what you're likely to spend on what when it comes to living expenses. So the British Council has kindly provided the average living cost to help you budget for your UK studies, and we're going to take a look at that. So when it comes to student halls, for instance, in London it's around £848, and as a student, when I was studying in London, I paid around £800 for my student accommodation, which is good. So my student accommodation, I had it was an ensuite. I had my bedroom, my bathroom, toilet and bath attached to it, and then I shared a kitchen, but that was around £800. But outside London, you're likely to pay less than that. So outside London, you're likely to pay, the rest of the UK is around £664, and this is for bills included for student accommodation. However, when you go to private housing, maybe you don't want to do the student halls, you can pay around, if you're in London, around £750, and the rest of the UK you pay £554. And that can be without bills. You pay this amount and then you pay for bills separately. However, there are even private accommodation, or there's private housing that you can get with your accommodation or with your bills included in the amount that you pay in, so you don't necessarily pay more. These are estimates, and these are like average estimates, so you may or may not get the same amount. Groceries is around £155 in London, and the rest of the UK we have £116. I think that for groceries it also depends on your choice of food. Sometimes if you want to eat the same things that you've been eating at home, they are more expensive in the UK, so you're likely to pay more for some of these ingredients compared to if you went to the supermarkets. Also, it depends on where you go to do your shopping. So if you go to a place like Waitrose, you're likely to probably pay a bit more than if you went to Lidl. So it depends on where you do your shopping, it depends on the things that you're shopping for, and generally also how much you eat, you know. So I think all of these things are important when you're planning for your groceries. So this can vary. When it comes to outside dining in London, you can expect in terms of eating out, going to cafes and bars, you can expect in London to spend around £150 a month, and rest of the UK you can budget around £80 a month. Average London cost restaurant meal is like £16, and takeaway coffee is £2.69. It also depends on where you're buying your coffee from, and yeah, how much it costs. So some coffee places have different price. Of course, everyone has a different price, so it depends on where you like to get your coffee or your hot chocolate from, or your tea from, whatever it is that you like to buy. The rest of the UK restaurant meal is averagely £15, and takeaway coffee £2.50, which is not really different if you ask me. Public transport, which is a big one. Public transport is a big one. If you look at the public transport cost in London, it's about £103. I think that I'm not really sure exactly when these numbers are put together, but I think it's a bit more. You're likely to spend a bit more than that, or a lot more than that, because of the cost of living crisis. Because averagely, if you take the tube, it depends on where you live. If you take the tube a lot, you're likely to spend more than if you take the bus more. So this is how much you would spend on public transport. They are saying around £103. I would say budget around £150 for transportation, because it's quite a lot of money. You realize that you're spending so much on transportation, depending on whether you go out a lot or not. But then again, if you're not careful, you just end up budgeting but spending more than you have budgeted for transportation. Outside London or rest of the UK is £54. When it comes to your same plan, London and the rest of the UK is £18. I personally spend like £10. No, wait, is it £10 or £15? I spent, I think it's around, I don't remember. Okay, so £18, yeah. So but what I spend is not up to £18. It's just for a plan for a month, and that covers my data, because you don't do a lot of phone calls, so I don't need a lot of that, because I do very few phone calls, and WhatsApp also makes it easy to make phone calls, so a lot of it has to do with my internet data. The last thing on the list is student gym membership, which is great. I think it's really important. Student gym membership is really important because you want to be healthy and fit. In London, you can budget around £20, and the rest of the UK is around £15. They are saying there may be fewer cheaper options in your halls of residence or at your university, and that is true. A lot of university gyms have more friendly packages for students. Other costs involved would be your visa expenses, and it depends on the visa you're applying for. If you study in the UK for more than 6 months, there are additional associated costs to consider. £363 for your UK student visa, which will allow you to live and study in the UK throughout your course, and £470 for your immigration health surcharge per year, which will give you access to the UK's National Health Service. And this is the cost after the 25% discount for student visa holders. So here's the thing: when you apply for the visa, you apply for the visa and it's a one-off payment, and that's it. For the immigration health surcharge, however, it's for the number of years you've been in the UK. So if your course is for a year, or if your course is for 3 years, you pay that amount by 3. So it really depends. These are the expenses. However, there are things that you may want to consider, like you're going to pay for your flight tickets, and that also depends on the airline you're booking and at the time that you're booking. And also, if you want to travel within the UK or inside the UK, tour the UK, visit to know, get to know places, this is something you'd also consider applying for. So that's it. I hope this has been useful to you. I hope it helps you to budget. I'll put the link to the website where I got all of this information from, which is from the British Council's website. I'll put the link to the website in the description, and I hope that you find it useful. So if you're trying to apply, just sit down, get your Excel sheet or get your book and do the calculation, and then it would help you to budget. If you have a full scholarship, you wouldn't have to take care of all of these by yourself. So I hope that you check out my videos on the scholarships, on how to get scholarships or the various scholarships you can apply for in order to make sure that this is easy on you. I hope this has been useful. I hope that you check out my other videos on education and self-improvement. And if you do not follow me on Instagram, check me out, Z Study Hub, on Instagram and TikTok. I wish you the best. Lots of love.